Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker. I am your host, and today I'm here with Jodi Edwards. And I'm excited to actually have her because she has a fantastic story. I love stories of where you come from nothing to have a whole bunch of something. And so she is a coach, but I want her to introduce herself to you. So, Jodi, without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Hi, my name is Jodi-Kay Edwards. I'm a business coach and a brand manager for CEOs and creatives, and I specialize in helping people kind of get out of their head and into their bag, is what I like to say. So, working through time management, balancing just like the day-to-days of life, being a woman, being a high functioning, individual that might have mental health things that they're balancing. So, I'm really here to be a guide and help people navigate through how to build a brand and a business and a life that they love.
Thank you. And I always like to ask, how did you get started in this? Because your journey is something that I think inspires our listeners as well. So how did you get started?
Yeah, I've realized I'm a Jane of all trades. So I started out being a blogger for myself, just kind of realizing that I had this creative outlet, this message inside of me that I wanted to speak up about mindset and mental health. And then I wanted to share my love for fashion while I was working in corporate and just kind of balancing the stylish side of me and the corporate side of me, right? And so from there, that just kind of evolved into me working with brands. I was able to work with a lot of like major big brands early on. So I've worked with like Warby Parker, like a couple like shampoo, hair care brands, Tom's, so that built my confidence to say, hey, I can teach people how to do this. I can help people increase their impact and their income in several ways. And so that led me to being a business coach. I taught people how to create e-courses from an e-course that I made. And then again, because I was like, I've done this, it's time for me to go fulfill another creative passion of mine. I decided to get into modeling and acting. And so after I did a couple years doing that, I took it behind the scenes. And then I was like, you know what? I'm ready to support CEOs at a higher level because now I have all of that stuff that is like self-taught. People can go grab a free 30-day challenge or a checklist. But I was like, success requires a mindset shift. So I was like, let me get certified in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and apply that to people who are balancing all these different things and want to do all these things. How do we increase our emotional intelligence so we can communicate, we can show up authentically ourselves, we can kind of call ourselves out and grow. So I say I'm a Jane of all trades because it's been an evolution that's really led me to what I'm doing now, just the cumulative effort of everything I did in the past to today.
I'm a firm believer that everything that we have done in our past, it leads us to where we're supposed to go. If we listen and follow our intuition, that things build upon themselves and they build and they build. And before you know it, you are where you are. And sometimes you pivot and you go somewhere else. But what you do, I think, is really important with the branding, with teaching people. And so tell me or tell our listeners why storytelling is such a powerful tool to build a brand.
Yeah, storytelling is one of those strategies that have been around forever. When we think of, growing up and maybe we were told bedtime stories, or we love listening to our grandparents, their stories, or even just like back, like cavemen times, right? And, if you're spiritual, like the Bible is a cumulative amount of stories that was happening at that time. So historically speaking, stories has been one of the best ways for us to communicate the past, the present, and the future. And so when we can apply that to ourselves of like, where have I been? What is my past like? Can I create a story around that that's going to help position me as someone who can help inspire or lead others or educate, right? Can I use my present to be vulnerable? Can I use storytelling of like what's going on today, what happened yesterday to showcase like, hey, I'm still navigating something? And can we use storytelling to help people lean into like a future that they want? And this is where selling comes into play, right? If you can use storytelling in your content right now to sell a future desired outcome. So storytelling isn't just like a strategy, it's really a a great way of communicating and like the baseline, I would say, for every brand, any personal brand.
And I think, especially in coaching or those industries, I think telling your story is how you bring people in. It's how you build trust. They always talk about know, like, and trust.
Mhm.
If they know you and they like you, now they need to trust you. And by you being vulnerable, that's typically where you start to be able to create or attract clients, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely, I would say, a right and wrong way to do this. I never want my clients to feel like they have to tell things that's going to trigger them or bring them back mentally or create some type of unsafe situation where someone might hear it and, not act in an appropriate way. So I know there's all this fear around it, and that's why I think the strategic side of it is really helpful to have these guidelines where as you are sharing parts and being vulnerable, you're not just exposing yourself, you're doing it from a place of power. You're doing it from a place of where they can be inspired, where they can be educated, where people can take it away. And the best tool I say is get your story out messy. Grab your phone. There's a voice recorder app on here. In the day of ChatGPT, I love using ChatGPT as my assistant. It's like my little life hack. I'll even just like voice note into ChatGPT and I'll say, this is my tone. This is what you know about me. I'll feed it information about my story from articles and even just me voicing things like this. And I'll say, clean it up, right? And so that's like a quick takeaway from this episode that you could do right now is just figure out the baseline of what your story is and then filter it through the different goals that you have. So if you are a mompreneur and you are working on building a brand, what what experiences do you have raising a family? What experiences have you had with marriage or divorce, right? Those things that we might feel are too personal to share. When you feel ready to share them, I encourage doing it through a strategic way so you don't feel like you're just spilling everything on the internet.
Yeah. And I think I used to tell a story for one of the things I was doing, but I would always tear up. And one of my coaches, like, you got to get past that. Like, you have to say it enough times where it doesn't bother you anymore. And not that you seem apathetic or cold-hearted, it's just you can actually tell the story without having the emotion where people can't understand what you're saying. Because,
Yeah. I know, yes. And there's absolutely nothing wrong to feel the feels. I think that's such a beautiful
yeah.
thing because I've seen it the opposite too, where someone's on stage telling their story and someone in the audience is tearing up because it really like hit home for them. And that's the beautiful part of connecting. But yeah, it definitely like when you're on the stage and you want to keep your composure or when you're on a live, it is helpful to share from a space of healing, but it's very personal for sure. It's always like figuring out what you're ready to share and what you want to share too.
Mhm. And don't share things that you haven't resolved yet because people
Yeah.
want a resolution. And if you don't have that, then you got to focus on something else.
It's so true. I always say heal so you don't experience life through the filter of your wounds.
Yeah.
And one of those things I try to remember for myself too, because if I do put something out, I
Mhm.
have to go through these checks and balances of like, okay, this might be a little too close to home. Maybe don't talk about that right now, right? Because it might not come through the way that I want it to. It might not be as powerful. It might not have as much impact as it possibly could until I kind of heal a little bit more from that.
That's so true. So let's talk about clients, how you get them. You have a sales funnel or how do you get your clients?
Yes, honestly, it's storytelling. So exactly everything here. I start with my origin story. I've got my epiphany story. And those are just like pieces that people can find on my TikTok, my Instagram at Jodi-Kay Edwards. And that I'm really more concerned about building an authentic, genuine relationship, right? So when it comes to marketing and branding, I have my personal brand and I have a sales funnel, of course, but I know to get qualified leads, not just like leads, right? I want to make sure that people are connecting with my content and they're connecting with the call to action. If you're looking to get seen and get paid or increase your impact and income, I want you to join my 30-day challenge. So yeah, that sales funnel is a long nurture sequence. It's a 30-day prompt process where people learn how to be their own brand manager. And I've heard people say, like, I can't believe you're giving this away for free. And I'm like, you know what? I already have like my contractual clients that I work with, and those are generally, it requires more of my time. So I've automated this process where I can give away a lot of things for free or $27, $10 just to
Mhm.
get that buy-in investment. But understanding my client base of there's, the low-hanging fruit, the freebie seekers, and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe financially they're not ready to make an investment. I still want to nurture them and I want to maybe get them ready to make that investment, right? So I have a funnel for that. Then when it comes to like the four-figure, five-figure work, that's really more of a conversation. That target audience isn't really consuming this content because it's more done for you. They're not looking to do it themselves, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So they want to hop on a call, they want to see your capability deck, they want to see the portfolio. And I teach that in the 30-day challenge as well of just how to pitch for bigger opportunities. So you can kind of get off this hamster wheel of like relying on content and the nurture cycle and all of that. So
Well, for those of you who are unfamiliar, because you're using a whole bunch of words and
yes, let's break it down.
conventionally, I'm going to just pitch for you for a second because what you're talking about, I have paid $25,000 to learn how to do
Oh,
from
yep.
the person who created the funnels. And so it's just, it is a huge thing that you can do. And it's so important to be able to push your audience and to nurture. You talked about nurture and to grow your brand. So that's a huge thing that you do and very generous, I should say.
Yep, yep. I've heard that before too. And I'm like, you know what?
Mhm.
That's the importance of telling your story, getting on podcasts, getting out there because I want to make sure I can find people. And I'm not trying to take from anyone else. It's really just one of those things that um, yeah, whenever people are financially secure as they're building their brand and their business and their dreams, of course it's not as scary to make those bigger investments. But for the people who might just be starting out or maybe don't have the financial means or bootstrap like I did, I didn't have any funding, I didn't have any support. That's also part of my story. The way I give a lot of things away for free is because that's what I wish I had back then.
And it's true because when I started to get into real estate, I just binged everything on YouTube. And this was 10 years ago or 12 years ago, but as much free stuff as I possibly could, I learned it all. And it's interesting now because all of those people that gave everything away for free, they're now big people doing these huge conventions. And so it really does serve not self, like give things back to the community because you continue to build trust and people are more likely to buy from you because they're seeing that you're giving so much away for free and they see value.
Absolutely. Yep. And the referrals go such a long way too. So it might not be my client going through the funnel, but they might refer me or introduce me to my next four-figure contract. You never know.
Yep, that's true. So how do you market? Once you have the funnel set up, once you know well, let's just start. Once you know what you want to do, because a lot of
Yep.
people they can't even decide.
Yep.
And now they've got this funnel or they've created now what? Because they don't have an audience.
Yeah. And that's the thing about the personal brand strategy that I teach is you get to show up authentically you and pick things that you naturally would talk about. So what you said about people not knowing what to start and where to start, it starts there, being so clear on what you want to have impact with. I've said this before in terms of like influence, and people feel so ick about it, but I really believe that we can redefine what that word means because if you have the ability to get people to believe in themselves or the ability to get people to go work out or clean this way or spend time with their family that way, you have the ability to influence, right? To be an influencer, you have to be someone of influence. And that starts with just how you're showing up and how you are vocalizing your thoughts first, right? That's one. And how you are communicating it through a script on video or text copy. And that's now we can talk about marketing because if we just hop into like, how do you market yourself? It's like, well, everything that we see is either going to be text-based copywriting,
Mhm.
audible, right? Video, getting on camera, or podcasts, right? It could be video and or audio. And so we have to get our messaging down first.
Mhm.
That's like the very, very first thing I want to encourage people to do is understand why you're showing up. Figure out your content buckets, right? Mine is mindset, fashion. I have like a very personal side of like I talk about being single, navigating that as someone who is creative and likes to do all these things. I really like fashion, so it it doesn't feel like work for me to show up,
Mhm.
right? It's exciting for me to get dressed and document it, getting in a mode of documenting what I've got on for the day, but also being comfortable looking just like this, no makeup, hoodie on, just having the confidence to say, today's the day I'm going to be a little more casual and I'm still going to show up, right? Having the clarity of, you know what, I love speaking on mindset and it's not going to stress me out because I've been studying it for so many years. I got certified in it. Right? I've been doing business coaching for 10 plus years. So it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's really looking within. Like right now, today, if I gave you a mic and was like, hey, I got you a spot to speak on a TED Talk stage, what would you naturally, you don't have a lot of time. What would you naturally be like, you know what, I'm an expert on this, right? And I think a lot of people overthink that. So that's
Mhm.
the first part. Once you understand your impact and what you're going to be leading with and what you want to have influence over, you want to find ways to psychologically connect with the person at the other end. And so this is where you can hire the copywriter, but if the copywriter doesn't understand who you are, at the core, you're going to lose a lot of your tone, a lot of your je ne quoi, a lot of what makes you you, right? So even before we go out and hire the marketing person, hire this, hire that, doing that work and putting it on a document, an SOP, a standard operating procedure, so you remember it and then you share it with an assistant or a team member, et cetera, they can, or a contractor, they can now look at this and put it on the landing page or put it on the website or put it in the captions or make you a script, right? Because marketing is really just your messaging and how well your messaging connects so people can learn more about who you are, what you have to offer to build brand awareness or brand equity, right? How profitable is your brand if you do plan to exit? Some of my CEOs do want to exit, right? So there's the beginning baby CEO and the CEO that's like, I'm ready to go do something else. So that's like a little high level breakdown there.
I like that. Okay, so let's switch gears for a minute. When we talk about branding and we talk about you mentioned TikTok, you actually mentioned several, but if you post something, how is that not marketing?
Yeah, I always say posting is not marketing because the messaging is disjointed. It's disconnected. And that's okay. It's okay to post randomly. But if you have an end goal in mind, there's this thing called marketing and sales alignment. So, marketing on its own, you can get the message out there all day. But if you don't have a sales strategy, you're just saying, like, hey, I'm here, I'm in the room. And you're just doing that every day. Hey, I'm here, I'm in the room. And when you leave that platform, there's nowhere for them to go because you haven't honed in on the message. You come in the room every day and you're like, hi, and then you leave. And so the only time that you're building your presence is when you show up. And it gets stressful because now your business is too heavily reliant on you showing up. But when you have a marketing system in place, when you have sales alignment in place, you're going to realize that disjointed, randomly posting, hey, hello, without a call to action that says, hey, if you're interested in learning more about this, go to www.jodikayedwards.com/CEO, right? That's a quick little plug. But you can also put that in text. You can also create a whole campaign around that. And that's exactly what I did. I created a campaign for my challenge because for the entire month of January, I knew that I needed a way to be top of mind without me just always posting about my challenge because there's balance there too. I don't want to always be like, hey, I'm here, come follow me, come buy this stuff, come click over here, come do that, right? There's also like, I want to announce myself, but I don't always want to be like, I'm in the room, let's go, leave the room too.
Right.
So that's why to me, like posting is not marketing because have you identified their pain points? Have you identified that when you walk in the room, these social media apps, that people are going to like turn heads and look at you as you walk through the door? Or are they just not interested because they're over at that part of their house? Or you know what I mean? So you have to learn how to speak to people's pain points and pleasure points. You have to learn how to communicate all of that in your content marketing. Content marketing, it's a whole different topic for a whole different day. So your posts are now effective. So your posts can build this ongoing resume for you when someone goes to your Instagram. they can see a combination of learning about you, hearing your story, seeing that you have a CTA to the top of your funnel, possibly, seeing that you have a webinar going on, seeing that you just enjoyed some time in nature, right? Maybe that's the post that's going to make them, wow, she values nature, so do I. I want to learn how to make more time for nature. Just random example. This is the person for me. And I think people don't spend enough time strategically building a content marketing plan that supports them. They are either just saying bye, bye, bye all the time, or they're not saying,
Mm,
here's how I can help you enough.
that's great. Okay, so our time is getting short, but you help a lot of females, correct?
I do. Yes. Yep.
And most of them are mothers. Um, so how do they, like, what are some of the struggles that you see with moms and how do you help them?
Oh my gosh. The thing about moms is they are so giving to everyone else, but unable to make time for themselves. And so, a big thing that I want to help women as a whole, whether you are supporting someone in your household, whether you are, um, you have a vision or you have a goal, you have a dream, I want people to learn that it's okay for you to build what you want to build. And that doesn't mean it doesn't make you a bad whatever, insert whatever, right? It's okay to be a little selfish because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And so when I speak with my moms, there's this struggle a lot of them have when it comes to focusing on themselves, focusing on their morning routine, getting themselves balanced and grounded, and then also focusing on what they need to do to feel fulfillment. Because motherhood is a part of their lives. It's not their whole lives. And that's what I'm hearing them tell me. They're like, yeah, I'm a mom, but that's not my whole identity. I also want to travel and I'm really good at finances. I'm really good at, making big investments. I'm amazing at, driving race cars or hosting events. So I love working with moms because I get to help them tap into something that they forgot how to tap into before they became a mom, or something that they felt too guilty spending time doing because of societal pressure and their expectations, right?
No, that's fantastic. Okay, last question. Well, second to last. You have been doing this for 10 years, but you've had other businesses. You've done a lot of things that you didn't even talk about, so I won't out you. But I want you to think back from, starting out and all the lessons that you've learned. And you're sitting on a park bench, and this new business owner comes and sits next to you, and you start talking. What is one piece of advice you would give that new business owner if you, about anything, when it comes to business and how to run your business, how to scale your business? What is one piece of advice you would give?
Mm. Write everything down. Write it down. It's, those thoughts that you have, write it down and organize it, because that's the first hurdle for a lot of people is they either have some form of ADHD or they have all these big ideas that they just can't figure out how to execute on. And really the biggest thing that I do for people, I'm a brand manager and a marketing manager and all these different things, a creative director, but really what people invest in me for is execution. You're you're investing in someone who has probably already built what you're trying to build for someone else or hundreds of other people or herself, and someone who is not only managing her brand, but has managed other people's brands. So I've got the time management down, right? And so the investment, I'm sharing those tools, I'm sharing those resources, I'm sharing the mindset that you have to balance it all. And showing that you can do it all. It's just you can't do anything if you don't have a plan, if you have it all up in here and it's just kind of like getting pushed to the back burner. So the first thing is really like get your SOPs down, get your systems down. And I'm always going to ask that person on the bench or at the bus stop or whoever, right, is what's next for you? Because that's going to give them permission to dream. And then I'm going to ask them, where do you feel stuck? What's holding you back? And I'm going to give you a plan to get unstuck and execute.
That is phenomenal advice that I have not heard because we as entrepreneurs, you talk about the ADD or because we're all over the place all the time. And a lot of times people, they just don't get started because they don't know where to start first. They have all these ideas and they don't want any of them to go away. And so they're afraid to. So I love that advice. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
If our listeners wanted to find you, how would they do that?
I am at Jodi-Kay Edwards on all platforms, JodiKayEdwards. And if you want to check out that free challenge, that website I know will be in the show notes. But again, it's www.jodikayedwards.com/CEO. And it's just going to start with going back to last year. What did you accomplish? What did you not accomplish? You making a game plan for yourself. And then every day you're going to get a prompt to help you gain clarity on your messaging, gain clarity on your brand positioning, gain clarity on the platforms you're posting on, your content marketing strategy, pitching for brand deals, right? Because for my moms, I'm like, you shouldn't have to pay for those baby clothes. You want a new washer and dryer. Here's how you're going to do that, right? You want a family vacation. Here's how you're going to position your content to do that. And then pitching your offers, coming up with a 4-figure offer and pitching it. And that's all free for 30 days. And I also link out to examples in my own content as well.
That isn't like listeners, listen to me. That is an incredible gift that is unheard of. So I'm actually excited to go look at it and see. So thank you so much for that generous offer.
Yes, thank you for having me today. This is so great.
Yeah, thank you for being on. And moms, I hope that you are inspired today to know that just get started, execute, take the first step. And the best way to do this, which is the first time I've said this on my podcast, is actually to go sign up for this challenge because she really does. It sounds like she walks you through all of the different steps that you need to be able to do what you want to do. So if you really haven't started yet and you're just considering it, then please go check out her website and go make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.